templates. Is that okay?
That's
Or
okay. This is really not. I mean, this just happens to be the topics we've done the first 3 times, but no, it doesn't have to stay on topic by any means.
okay. So I've got a customer that we're going to do metering at. There's about 60 different meters, all aggregated into a single Niagara JACE controller. And I want to take that data and push it up to SkySpark. SkySpark's living in AWS. But they have corporate security standards and all that good stuff. I need to know if there's a secure way that you guys have done this, either for residing the Niagara 4 and maybe a Niagara supervisor in a DMZ, and then letting that push up into the cloud, or if there's another path that's more secure for the customer.
Probably the easiest way to do it would be to, and I would imagine that the customer probably has something in place already, to VPN in from your SkySpark server into their network. Because if you DMZ, then you're gonna open up, everything that's on that supervisor or whatever device you're exposing to the internet from the site. So like that's probably the best.
So it would be behind their firewall. It would be like a SSL VPN that I would install on the AWS server, and then they would tunnel in directly from the AWS server. And
exactly.
Okay. And then the SSL, I guess my AWS server would need a static IP, and they would just let that specific connection in. That.
Correct. Yeah. The AWS servers, if you get an EC2 server, that comes with an IP address, a static IP.
Right. Right. Elastic. Okay, that sounds good. I'm actually on my way to your office, so maybe we're gonna talk about. Is this Matt? I'm assuming it's
Matt. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll catch up a little bit about it.
All right. Sounds good.
Yep.
All right. I guess we can get started now, and people jump on. That's cool.
Good morning, Rick. Scared one off. Sorry. You might as well start.
All right, so continuing in what we've been talking about the past couple of months, trying to get you guys sort of up to speed on some things that will be leveraged in the new edge controllers that are coming out, whether that's the Tritium Vicon edge controller or what we're assuming is the F1 will leverage the same sort of technology. And one of the pieces that can be used pretty heavily and is actually used pretty heavily is the templating. And I know that's included in the Niagara 4 certification, but I know a lot of guys don't use it. So, yeah. Good thing to start off with.
Hey, Frank.
Good morning.
Sorry about that. I meant to unmute and killed the Polycom.
No problem.
Should have swiped left.
Yes.
All right, so just a brief overview on the templating stuff. It's included in all versions of Niagara 4. Obviously, there are features that are added as you get, new releases. But it basically allows you to easily reuse stations, programs, and basically any component in a station. It has some built-in organizational stuff and versioning so that if you upgraded or added new functionality to one of your templates and went back to an older job where you had an older version of the template, you could easily upgrade it to make use of those changes that you made. And it makes use of tagging to make that implementation a little bit easier. And like I said before, it's leveraged in the edge controllers. As of 4.6, there are two different kinds of templates. There's a station template and a component template. And then in 4.7, there's a third type, an application template, and that's what's used in the edge controllers. The station template is essentially just a pared back version of the component template because there's some there's less things that you can do with the station as far as connections and stuff like that, but we'll show that next. All right, so your station templates, out of the box, there are 3 included ones, 1 for JACE, 2 for supervisors, Linux and Windows. You're automatically prompted to select a template when you create a new station. You've all run into that before. And if you make a template station out of something maybe you used before as a starter where you would duplicate it, you can just select it from that box instead of having to do the duplication process. And to create the template, you just right-click on your config, do a make station template, and it'll walk you through the configuration things. And all of these templates are stored in your user home directory under the station templates directory. So obviously it depends on what your username is of your user and the version of Niagara you're using, but this is basically most likely what that user home location will be. And component templates are basically for anything that's inside of a station. Any component you can make a template out of. So it could be folders of programming that you did in kit control, it could be third-party devices. I wouldn't recommend doing it on spiders because they have all kinds of extra stuff that they rely on, but basically anything else, so long as it doesn't rely on like some extra files and things, you should be okay to use. And they're created the same way, you just right-click the component instead of the config container and do a make template. And then they're accessible through a pane in Workbench called templates. You've got a bunch of different tabs when you go to make your template, and we'll go through this in a minute. Your first one is your template info. It basically gives you your descriptive information on the template, versioning, that sort of stuff. The component tab will give you all of the included components, basically the nav tree of everything that's included inside of the template. Your configuration will be where you can define properties that you'll be prompted to set on the install of the template. The Relations tab is where you would define any tag relationships you may have. So you could say, like, if this was a VAV template, you could say automatically prompt me to select a AHU reference, and it will pull up basically any objects that are tagged AHU. And the template IO is the same sort of thing, but it's for basically inputs and outputs, and that can be assisted by tagging as well, and I'll show that. Graphics basically lets you review all of the included PX files that are going to be in your template, and they also give you the ability to add some sub-templates into your template, so that if you had a station, you could include some other templates, or a station template, you could include some other templates inside of it. And then here's some, just a appendix sort of thing for some naming that you may not have seen before, and we'll go over that. This is just for reference later. So if I pull up Niagara now, I just have a station running on my machine, and inside of that station I just made this logic folder, and that's what we're looking at here. I have 3 points, or 4 points actually. These two are tagged with haystack tags, just a temperature tag just for demonstration's sake, and then this one is tagged with a set point tag for demonstration's sake. So before I create a new template, I'll show you what it looks like when you add one in. So I opened up the template window here, a sidebar here on the side, just window, sidebars, and then there's a template in here. And that will show you any templates you may have created that are component templates, obviously not station templates. So I'm going to drag in this adder thing, and basically all it is an addition block that adds a couple inputs, and then there's a set value in the block as well as the third input. So this is all things that I defined in the template. So the first thing that it's asking me is what I want for the input 1, and if you notice, it's not showing this third point here. Because this point wasn't tagged with the haystack temperature tag, it's not going to show up in this list of possible selections because I told it to only give me temp tagged points as options. So this is input 1, I'm just going to select this guy. Same thing here, input 2, I'll select this one. And then for my output, same thing as before, except now it's only showing me things that were tagged with the set point tag. So I'll select that and then choose a slot that I want it to be linked into. I'll just make it 10, say OK. And this is my third property, essentially. And you can define a value of some sort here to inform your user as to what this is. And I'll just leave that at 50. It says that it linked up my template to those things that I selected. OK, and you can see here it did exactly that. It linked up those two inputs and the output. And if I open up here, you can see all it is basically just an addition block. And if I pin this slot, you can see that that third value is the property that I set. So now I'm just going to actually physically create. I'll create the identical thing, but just go through the creation process for it. So I'll right-click. This adder is exactly, it's just a folder with the add block in it, and I can put composited these inputs and outputs into it.
We talk to that guy and find out his? Right, so who wants to work on it? Yeah,
I talked to Nick about it yesterday. He told me you were going to go look at it.
I can go look at it, but I don't have enough information. All right, so who do I get it from? Well, somebody's got to do something.
Brett. Hey, Brett. Good morning, Brett. Could you mute your computer?
Which way? The new one type?
You're asking me a question that he doesn't know.
Right, so if he doesn't know, then who? That'd be like saying I want to go into a building and say I got 50 rooftops, replace the rooftop. Which one? I don't know.
What he's saying is,
Hey, Brett.
I got it. There we go. All right. So I'll just back up a step. So this is my folder with the logic in it. I just composited the inputs and the output. That just basically does a step for you in the template creation process. So I'll right-click, do make template. You can give it a name, and I'm going to call this something else just so that I don't run into any duplication problems. You can leave it as a draft. You can give it some description and information just for your benefit later. We'll leave that stuff as is. Component basically will just show you what's inside of the template. So it's just basically a nav tree of the objects that are going to be inside. Configuration-wise, this is where I set my third input to be prompted to set it. So I'll just call this input 3, and the user tip will say static value. And then you can set a default value. So I'll just set this to 50. And I'm not going to do any relation stuff, but you could if you wanted to. Like I was saying before, if this was like a VAV, you could add in an AHU ref, and then with these relate hints, you could say, I only want the user to be able to select from these things, and you could do something like HS, AHU, and that'll basically filter out so that you only see the objects that are tagged with an AHU tag. But we're not going to do that here. And we'll go to the template IO. This is going to show me, because I did that composite already, it'll show the inputs and the output from that composite by default. And I can change these values or names. So make this input 1, input 2. And you'll notice it's yelling that there's no bind hint contents. So if I go in here and bind hint, that's where we're saying we only want to show the temp tagged points. So if I just make this HS temp and this guy HS temp, this one is HSSP. We only want the set point tag to be there. And then there's also these user tips. Do the same thing here. Input 1. Input 2. If we had PX files, it would basically show you that these specific files are going to get brought into the template as well. We don't have any in this case. And then same thing with the subset templates. If you had templates inside of this folder already, it would say, hey, we're going to bring these things across as well. But since we don't have any of that stuff, that is that. And we'll save. And you can see it got added in to my template box over here. And if I bring it out, it goes through the same process. So this is where I set that bind hint for temp. Select that one, select that one, and then this is the set point. Make that 11, and then this was the configuration value. That's really it. I mean, there's a lot you can do there. This obviously is just a really simplistic example, but you could get really complicated with PX files and all kinds of relations, and you can make it a lot easier on yourself, A, by tagging all of your points, or starting to tag all your points, and then that'll make making your links and the relationships easier down the road. And then another nicety that comes along with using that template, or templates in general, is this template service that's included in all stations. That shows you the templates that are in use in your station. And if I was to make a change in one of my templates on my local machine, and it saw that the station was using it, it would work exactly like the software manager and say that, you know, this is out of date, and you could upgrade all out of date templates and, you know, throw a change across a station, across a whole bunch of VAVs or air handlers or meters, whatever you're doing. So that's just an added benefit that sort of comes along for free if you're using the template. And that's really it. Simple to the point. Now, another piece that gets a little bit more involved that we might do next month is bulk deploy, which is a feature that they added in 4.6 or 4.4.
I thought it was 6.
One of the two, that lets you take an Excel file and deploy a whole bunch of templates based on some configuration that you do in an Excel file. And you can see that button down here for it.
It's like a good example would be like a VAV application. You could have all your box sizes, K factors, set points, and
Right.
all.
Yeah, you add that configuration out in the template, then you can set all of those configuration values in your Excel file and just do a deploy, kind of like Johnson does with their XML files for PCT.
I thought they said that was 4.6
And it might be.
when they treated them.
Yeah, I know it's a feature that's used big time with the Edge stuff.
Right.
So it would make sense that it's at 4.6, not 4.4. Does anyone have any questions on anything? Let me see here. I guess I should probably.
Yeah, we'll unmute Brett.
Oops. Sorry about that, fellas.
Any questions on anything, anyone? Or it can be unrelated to this as well.
Can you back up just a second? So
Yeah.
the template in the template object in your lower left corner.
Yes.
That's just a template window. You open that up by going to window.
Yeah, that's just yep, sidebar
Sidebar.
and
Okay.
then template. Yeah.
And do you need to add a template service to your station or
Nope,
anything, or that's all built in?
included. Yep.
Okay. So and then to start the make template process, you
To start,
right
so
click on it.
yeah,
on
you
your
would.
folder.
If you wanted to make a station template, you right click on the config, make station template, and if you're doing just a component, it can be anything. You right click and do make template,
Cool.
and that starts your whole process. Yeah, and then the component templates live here, and your station templates live here. User home, station template.
Okay.
Has anybody used any of this before?
We get a lot of template questions.
No. I've got a lot of things I want to make into templates.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think there's a good use case for them. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of use cases for them.
There are
I just don't
there
know
are
many
certain
people
things that
leverage
every
it.
station is gonna have
Right.
consistent with every project.
And if you have a, default station or starter station that you always start with, you can make that into a template and make some of your configuration easier just by exposing
Yep.
specific things that you always change.
This is, a great tool to have if you're doing a lot of redundancy.
Right.
A lot of folks are doing very custom work.
Sure.
So,
Especially if it's deployed across multiple JACEs or edge devices. So if you make one little change, you don't have to go back and change every single one. You could, like you were saying, you're showing that with the, what looked like the software manager, where if it's all changes, you could push
Right.
out updates.
Yep. And if it's, maybe you're not using them across, maybe you're not using them a bunch of times in a specific station, but you use them across all of your jobs.
Like a PID loop. I've got a standard PID loop folder that's got all the KI, KP,
Yep.
all those parameters already built in with the right slots, and
Yep.
then I've got a PX file that has a line chart with everything relativized to that
To
folder.
that folder. There
And
you
so
go.
that anything that I change in that folder, I automatically have a tuning tool to
Sure.
watch the line chart and adjust set points and adjust gains and stuff.
yeah, the possibilities
Wanna make
are
that a
endless.
template.
You just have to think about it before you.
Right. And it gives you another reason to start tagging stuff.
Right.
That's the part that I missed. I gotta get
It's
in
sort
on that.
of, this is like the intent of the developers.
Sure.
It's how they
Yeah.
they intended it to be used.
Yeah.
All right, is there we got through this part of it, I don't think there's any more questions on this, at least doesn't seem to be. How about anything else? It's an open floor for pretty much everything and anything.
I got a question.
Go for it.
I got a static pressure value that bounces because of electronic noise or whatever, so the value goes from like anywhere from 63 to 60, and it's causing problems with my PID.
But we answered that.
You did, and I put it in, and it's great until I start the system up from 0. And then to get the static pressure, it's differential pressure, to get the differential pressure from 0 to 60 takes like 15 minutes because I set the increment size small and the time delayed is small. And so then I put in a one shot and I kind of looped it, so every 5 seconds it would fire the one shot and it would grab that value, the current value, and then feed that into an averaging block. And I did that 4 times, and so every 4 seconds or every second, each one of these one shots would fire and kind of set up a perpetual loop. But sometimes it stops.
What does?
My perpetual loop of triggers.
So there are objects that are in different tools. We were working with a kit control, if I remember correctly. So the tools are limited. You have to create that. It's what I would normally use as ramps, where you can time your uptime and your downtime. Like in Care and in Spider Tool, they have these ramp.
Oh, you use a ramp to trigger it.
Yes, but with kit control, we were limited, so we had to use some timing stuff, I think. But you're right, depending on your startup, maybe,
Like when I could go in, right click and fire, and then it'll go, for as long as I could watch it for, but then something happens or it reboots.
And static pressure is a, you don't want that going too quickly.
No. And I tried a trigger, but there was nothing I could drag out of the trigger object on the wire sheet to connect to anything. There's no...
Something or other?
I guess the trigger you can only link a trigger to...
The trigger wants to go to an action.
So maybe I could expose something on the one shot.
You have to go to the bottom thing and then link it to the action. The action will come up as one of your
Or
options.
composite the fire.
Yeah, or composite the action.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Because I could trigger it once a minute and then just continue to do it every 5 seconds or something, just in case it stalls. It'll restart every minute. That should do it.
Yeah, there are other programs, software programs like Care has an averaging type block where it was intended to be used for things like outside air, but it would work perfectly for this. But it's a custom module that's created by Honeywell.
Yeah.
You'd have to create that logic in kit control.
The Webs guys, I wonder if that central line, their HVAC palette, remember they redid a bunch of the Care things. Well, the look, it might be there.
Yeah.
As long as it's a Webs branded JACE, and Honeywell just in the last couple months changed the licensing requirements for it was for the Eagle AX. They had all these central line pallets that were only licensed to that controller, not to our workbenches or other JACEs. And they've opened it up that it works now on anything that's branded Webs. So there may be something with that. We can look to see. What we're talking about is input dampening. I guess the best way to put it. You have an input that's bouncing around. Curious to see what anybody out there has done to do that with various systems. Any thoughts or don't want to give up your secrets or?
I think using the trigger and linking it to the fire is gonna work. It's gonna work great. I don't know what kind of resources it'll suck up, but I can't imagine it's all that.
No. You're only talking using it once, right? You only have it for one input, or do you have it for a couple inputs?
I only have it for one input.
You should also start thinking about
yeah.
your sampling too. I mean, why are you bouncing around so much? Is it an electrical problem? Is it a location problem?
Yes.
All the above.
Let's fix it with software.
It's like 300 feet away, so it's a good distance. The JACE is on the 16th floor, the DP transducer's on the 4th floor, and kind of over a ways, maybe 100 feet over, 200 feet over. So it's a pretty far run. It's a 4 to 20 milliamp signal. I got the resistor on the input, and it bounces a little bit.
And it causes erratic control.
And it affects the PID so that the PID is always ramping up a little bit and ramping down a little bit, and I could sit next to the VFD and listen to it go, only like not even 5%, so maybe a couple hertz up, a couple hertz down, and the control line is smooth. Like it's not hunting, it's just noisy. But as soon as I put in that suggestion that you had about slowing down the signal, it stayed solid. Like, it's great, solid. But
There's also things, we had the same problem with CFM control.
Mhm.
You know, we had units that were trying to maintain 60,000 CFM as a static set point. It was very little that, it wasn't a very dynamic set point. So it stayed pretty much, the set point stayed pretty much at 55,000 CFM. Our CFMs, however, were, because of the airflow stations we were using, it was on a fan array, so they were unstable.
yeah,
And it was causing exactly the same thing on our drives. One of the things that we attempted to do was to slow the speed of the drives down, because they have a ramp up and a ramp down time as well. So it stabilized the signal a little that way too. I mean, we had 9 fans on an array and 6 on the other array, so it was a bit of a challenge to get it to stabilize. So that might be an option.
Yeah.
Messing with the timing on the ramp up and the ramp down time on your drives. Did you change it from the default? Because I think most drives comes out of the box at 60 seconds or something.
I'm not sure how the drive was set up. They did have a ramp time, and I put a ramp time in the PID as well. But that's always, like, for me, it's always the last resort to slow down the response, because
I hear you.
it's like I feel like it's a hack fix. Like,
In your dampening.
sometimes you have to, but I try not to
And
do
it's a
that.
delicate balance too, because if you affect that, then it's going to affect your response time on your control. So it was, for us, that was the challenge. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know, we changed something over here and it affected something over there.
Yeah, and then the startup is always, this is a 24-hour system, so it's hopefully never going to be an issue, but, that one time somebody reboots the JACE, and they're like, no, the VFD
Taking
goes
forever to
right
get up
to
to
100.
speed.
Yeah. It thinks the DP is still 20 hertz when it's really 60, and the VFD just keeps going and going and going and going. And then
It overshoots.
ultimately it would bring on the lag pump, and then I'll have 2 pumps screaming, and the actual pressure will be hundreds, and the pressure that's getting fed into the PID will still be like 22, 23. So, like, I don't want to artificially limit that.
Understood. I totally get that, especially on pumps.
Yeah, I think the dampening thing that I got going now with the fire trigger is gonna do it. It's gonna work great.
There's a value ramp under central line HVAC. Just trying to quickly look through to see what they've got in here. Is that a control icon, do you remember? Or was that a modal? Is that outside air averaging?
That's a modal.
Yeah, so that's not going to be part of the main piece of this then. But they do have a value ramp.
When you say value ramp, how's that?
It
what do you mean?
affects
works like
how
this.
quickly the signal will be increased based upon your timing, a set point parameter. And that could be brought out as a variable so that you could tune it.
But that gets back to the problem you're having now, though, on startup. That's
You're
going
going
to
to
be
be chasing your tail.
I gotcha. Can you email templates? Like, how do you take templates and share them, or
They're in the user home,
is that
right?
NTPL file or
Yeah,
something?
so there's your station templates, you would just grab, they're basically, for all intents and purposes, to Workbench, they just seem like a log file with some additional information. So
Okay.
yeah, I can open that offline, make changes like it would a bog file.
But you have to save.
Yeah, but yeah, like a bog file if you're doing
Right.
it offline.
Offline.
But this is actually a good question, because I forgot to mention this. You can make a module of your templates by hitting this icon here,
Mm-hmm.
and it will just create a module of the templates that you have inside of that container.
Oh, and then you can
How
just
is that
email the
imported
module.
or transferred or?
It's just
Pop
like a
it right
module.
into you?
Yeah, just like a regular module.
Okay.
So you put it in and
Pop
go to
it right
Software
in.
Manager
Yep.
and add the
Exactly.
module.
Yeah, and then that's what that pop-up is, that gives you your
Got it.
versioning information and stuff for the module.
Oh, fancy.
make your templates a little bit more portable.
Yeah.
So the flip side of that, or the downside of that, is if you have that module installed into a JACE and someone does not have that module, it's going to choke.
Yep. Some would see that as a perk, some would see that as...
But they'll go back in the software manager, see what's...
Assuming you have
if you
platform credentials,
if you get
you
into
could
the
get in
platform, that's the key.
Yep.
And some of the more savvy users, it's not an issue at all, but others, it's going to stop them.
That brings up a good one, that a Pandora's box that I'm going to open up, that I got all excited about because I actually thought it was implemented, but I was found quite wrong. You know how in AX with JACEs, I should say non-8000s, you forget the platform credentials. What do? You go into shell and you hit escape to go in and you reset, clear your credentials. With the 8000s, and most people have already found the hard way, was you don't get that and there's no way to recover passphrase. Now, if you look, in the 8000, if you use shell, which is, shell's always running, so it's easy to jump in on an 8000 to see what's going on. But on startup, you will see in there where there's an escape to select boot options. Hidden in there, and I shouldn't have mentioned it because it doesn't really work. You will find in there is a reset platform credentials.
But it doesn't work.
And what it's set up to do, the thing is that means they're that much closer.
Okay.
Basically what it's doing is when you check it off, you go in there and you hit the escape and you get the menu. Number 8, I think it was reset platform credentials and passphrase or something like that. You do that, it creates a key, or a token, I guess it is. And then you take that token, and we would then go back to Tritium with the host ID. There's in shell, there's a little paragraph that comes up, a section that comes up with host ID, I think even serial number, and this token or key. You send it to Tritium, and then Tritium will send back, I guess you send them the token and they send you back a key.
I gotcha.
You have 24 hours from when you generated your original token to put that in.
Wow.
And it's supposed to have reset it. So I had to made up a document to publish, but I figured before I do that, let me go through the complete 100% process. So I followed it. I sent it to Tritium support. About 3 or 4 hours later, I get a response. This is not supported at this time. So that put an end to it. So I put a watermark in my document. This is not available yet.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, it's a lawyer thing.
Yeah, well, back at at the summit, when I was in our Vicon distributor meeting, it came up. They said the hooks were in 4.4, but 4.6 is where they were hoping to deploy it to be able to have it go out for people to use. At that point, this is April, when the summit was, they were working with their lawyers on it. Well, here we are now in October. It's in 4.6, but the actual hard part, not the hard part, what you think would be the easy part, they send back the key to unlock it. It's not available. So when they said it was available in 4.4, I figured, all right, I'm going to go back and I recommissioned my JACE for 4.4.
That's right.
That is not there. So they don't have the menu item. So 4.6, they turned on that menu item in shell to make it work. But no guts. It doesn't do a damn thing.
Legal hasn't given us the green light.
Right. That's the best part.
So
Legal doesn't know what it is.
I guess I'm saying this so that you don't get excited when you're figuring I'm screwed, I can't do anything. You start going through it and you see that and you think, oh, this is going to do it. And
No.
So
No,
we're
not
back
gonna do
to factory restore.
yeah, it's using the backup button and going through the restore process, but with that you blow everything away.
Even the backup button, you have to have that enabled in software, which you can only get to if you know the passphrase.
Well,
Right,
out of the
to use it as a backup, but you
But
can
not-
use the backup button to do a factory restore.
So a factory restore is power down, hold the backup button in, apply power. It's about 30, 45 seconds. It seems like an eternity, but you hold that button in until you see the backup LED flash.
Okay.
You let go of it.
All right.
Then you let it go through its process, maybe a minute or so. The light goes out, you reset power. But I strongly suggest if you're going to do this, hook up with Shell. Then in you can actually watch in PuTTY what's going on, because then you'll see,
Feel better about yourself.
you'll see it going into that mode when it blinks. So you let go of the button, and then in Shell you'll see it count down from 10.
Okay.
To say, hey, you can abort if you want, but you don't see that unless you're using Shell. So if you let it go through, it goes through the whole process, and you get to see it redoing it, and at the very end it'll say cycle power, where it's when the LED goes out at that point that you cycle power. But I think going in with Shell, I mean, anytime with an 8000, even right out of the box when you're commissioning it, I think it's nice to go in with Shell. You can actually watch, because you can stay online with Shell as long as you want. And just to watch the process and what's going on.
And capture it.
And once it's factory restored, it's still licensed, but you now have a out of the box, blank.
Yep, exactly, out of the box.
You gotta totally rebuild your station. Okay.
Now, if it's something you have access to the station, at least you have the permissions that you can do a station backup. Then at least you have the station, so you're okay to blow away the platform and everything else that's in there. Yeah, well, that's the other part too. You want to make that's kind of hard without a platform to be able to tell. So there are ways for people to make it difficult on you, but they're working towards it at least. I mean, that's sort of like that next step that, they promised it 3 years ago that they were working on that.
And I always feel like it's on the client. Like, you need to maintain, this is your hardware.
Well, in the discussions with Tritium,
you're right.
Tritium said that it's imperative that the end users, it's on the end user to get that information. I think, well, how's the end user even know?
They don't.
That's the problem.
They rely on a contractor to do a good job and to provide them with a service, and they don't need to know that level of detail. Unfortunately, but they should. Those documents should be turned over, like with as-built. But a lot of jobs are renovations, there are no as-built required, and there are no turnover documents required. People just want their projects done. That's a gotcha.
A lot of, but they lose interest towards the end.
Yes.
There you go, is it working? Oh, thank God, Bill. Bill it. We're out of here.
Send the bill.
I'm trying to think of what other things this past month. I got more information on, I'm not sure how many of us are interested in card access or the Tritium security stuff, but basically the security appliance can go on any 8000. It just can't, it can go on an 8005 and above. It can't go on an 834, which would be a super cheap way of doing it. There is the possibility they're talking about having like a small building security where possibly an 834 could be used. That's something Tritium's, I was talking to Laura Kevitt about it, and that's something down the road they may consider, but right now they're sticking with an 8005 or above. So it's a 5-device 8000 that you would put it on, which is still, I think, lower in cost than how it is now with the 602s for security.
I've yet to delve into access control. I have an office now, so I need a...
There you go.
Well, that's what's nice. Now at least you,
need access.
But at least now you have that same JACE, demo JACE. I believe if you have a demo 8000, it's licensed for it, so it'll run the security.
I have a demo 3 webs, AX.
Have we got a deal for you?
I bet. Here it comes.
The downside of having the JACE doing your HVAC, your security, is in the event of a catastrophe, you're screwed. So you have to build your security system around, mechanical bypasses and things like that. That's when we did this place is there. A key will get you in this building.
Well, the other thing,
regardless of the condition of the card access system, we will always have access, in egress, of course.
I mean, one of the issues too, if you use your demo JACE for that, come April 1st, if you didn't upgrade your license file and you have a power failure, the JACE won't start back up and you don't have your security system up and running. That's where at least when they were security JACE demos, because it was a security JACE, it was unexpirable for that reason.
Oh. So the security JACEs, I caught only half of that last sentence to get me scared.
Well, no, you have to, if you're going to, for a job, you're going to use an 8000. It doesn't expire, so you don't have to worry about that. Because if you're going to use your 8000 demo JACE, which obviously expires March 31st or...
every year.
And and the license will keep running, the JACE will keep running until it restarts with an expired license. Then, so most people don't realize it come April 1st that their building JACE or their demo JACE doesn't work anymore. It's that power cycle that is where you catch it. So it could be a month later, it could be a week later. It's just waiting to, then I get that frantic phone call or email that can't get in. Yeah, well, you're used to it.
So the security will only be a Tritium product. There are no Johnson flavor. There are no Honeywell.
No, Honeywell Websel.
Yeah,
Honeywell. Laura's going to be at the Momentum Conference in Orlando in 2 weeks, so they'll be talking about it at least. I don't know if they're actually going to show any product.
I doubt Johnson would jump into it.
Yeah, Johnson hasn't yet, but that doesn't mean that the security option could be licensed to it. I mean,
I think the security option most likely will still be there.
Maybe not through Johnson Controls. It would have to be done through WebServe Icon. But
for our Johnson friends.
Yeah.
Because, they'll...
And obviously Johnson wouldn't support it, but...
Right.
But ultimately what you're doing is you're taking your security station, which is an appliance, and it's still a browser configuration. So it's just taking your security station that was built for the 602 security JACE, and you put it on your 8000, and cool, it'll function.
And it's still going to be an appliance moving forward?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It just doesn't have it. The only real difference is it doesn't have onboard inputs and outputs to control your doors or, reader.
Right. That hardware is not there anymore.
Right. All right, I was rambling there. Anything else anybody has? Anything they would like considered as a future topic?
We need to have more people in the room. It's a much more livelier conversation in the room. People on the phones are not contributing.
I don't think they're listening anymore. I love these sessions, by the way. I missed last week. What happened?
If we get, I shouldn't say it this way because I'm not trying to slight you, Ryan. But if we get people coming in, we can justify having breakfast. And I love Scrapple.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So I guess with the lack of responses from anybody, I guess we're done for the month. But obviously, if things come up between now and next month, please reach out to us.
What happened to the provisioning topic? Was that?
That was last month.
That was last month?
You missed it.
Recording should be up on.
Yeah,
It is. It is.
All right.
It's on Texas.
Good. Yeah, I wanted
This
to.
will go up later today.
I've implemented it once. It was like line by line directions, and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't understand. But it works. Okay, great.
Matt has a whole bunch of YouTube videos.
Yep, I've seen them. I want to check that out. All right, cool.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Ryan.